3 out of 3, let's make it, on Thursday out in Denver, looking at another South Region matchup. I think, and maybe this is just a theory of mine, but some of the last games on the board on the first day of the NCAA tournament generally lead to upsets. Maybe that's just my positive thinking coming into play, optimistic view on life, because I have a bet on UC San Diego against Michigan getting the 3.5. I would bet this thing down to 2.5. And I know I made the joke that you're anti-UCSD. Did you stay away from this game? And if you did, why?
Yeah, the game it feels toxic now. Like everybody on Twitter. I mean, this is maybe the people I talk to, but it's like you're an idiot if you're betting UCSD, or oh, you're a square if you're betting Michigan, and oh, you haven't heard about UCSD, and it's the water cooler pick and the trendy up. All these like things that mean nothing keep getting thrown around. When I look at the matchup, like a few years ago, I think we would have gotten UCSD plus 4.5, and I would have happily bet it with everybody. But at 2.5, it's like I don't know. We joked off air. This is like the Providence South Dakota State rematch, and it just really does give those vibes. And 2 years ago, I was banging the drum for the Jackrabbits, and I just felt like an idiot afterwards. And so now this year, I think
Baylor Shireman.
There's 16 games on Thursday. I don't have to bet all 16, and this one may be one I just sit out and just tell everybody else to have fun, and I'll be rooting on Yale right before it.
See, that's the way I feel about the Yale-Texas A&M game. And I know, comparatively speaking, you're getting a bigger number with Yale, and I get your point for sure. High variance team in Texas A&M, or at least from a broad level, high ceiling, low floor among the higher seeded teams in the NCAA tournament. And this line is sitting at 2.5. You made the comparison to Providence, South Dakota State. How about last year, James Madison, Wisconsin? Because on Gambling X, which I know you've rightfully so have drifted away from, I can't imagine how much healthier you feel mentally not being as big of a part as gambling Twitter as you have in recent years. But the comparison I saw earlier in the week, to your point, UC San Diego is McNeese State. They're not even comparable. The market never bet McNeese State. I believe they opened 6.5 against Gonzaga, closed 6.5. Gonzaga blew them out. So the lines aren't close. The market immediately bet down UC San Diego. If anything, the line is more comparable to the game that you brought up, because I think the line was bet down very quickly in South Dakota State's direction against Providence. But this game is much more of the ilk when you think about James Madison and Wisconsin last year, because that was the trendiest upset. And I wasn't just trying to play contrarian. I was higher on Wisconsin than the market entering the tournament when it came to long-term projections. And then AJ Storr decided to quit right from tip-off because he knew he was going to Kansas. That's what I heard. I think that's actually a pretty decent conspiracy theory, and one that bettors should consider. Some of these players know where they're going in the transfer portal, and Storr didn't care what happened in that first round game after playing like a second-team All-American in the Big Ten tournament. So worth noting, just a general thought there. But UC San Diego, when it comes to actually handicapping this matchup, Michigan ranks 328th in turnover percentage. I have rehearsed this on radio hit after radio hit after radio hit, just like probably you have on podcast appearance after podcast appearance. UC San Diego's second best turnover rate in college basketball. So actually taking advantage of mismatches. I think the matchup stylistically is more suitable to an upset rather than South Dakota State and Providence, because Providence's physicality on paper and from the eye test overwhelmed South Dakota State throughout that game. UC San Diego, even though they have a size disadvantage, Michigan has struggled when teams have trapped the low post. That correlates with their high turnover percentage, as we touched on off air. Danny Wolf turning the ball over at an absurdly high rate when he gets double teamed. UC San Diego, because they lack size, is going to trap the post, whether it's Vlad Golden or Danny Wolf, and their dual threat big action, one of the best dual threat big threats, or dual threat high-low action in college basketball. And if you want to, because there are the people out there that are looking for that mid-major name, who's going to come out of nowhere and shock the world that you're going to hear on Thursday night Aniwani Tate Jones. Aniwaniwa Tate Jones. I've said it 30 times now. Messed up my first go around. I apologize. Aniwaniwa Tate Jones and this UC San Diego team advances to the round of 32 and gets to the Sweet 16.
I'll probably pick them in my bracket.
But you said you're taking pick
the first
to
game.
Win. Okay.
In my bracket pool, yeah, because I think Michigan will be popular, more popular than maybe they should be, because of the brand name of Michigan. But it is funny because I was texting people last week about this Michigan team who, rightfully got exposed after all those crazy close wins they had, and the sentiment was, well, we're going to look to bet against Michigan in the first round, and then UCSD, who was the most profitable team in the country this year, the market never caught up to how good they were, dominating the Big West. It was, well, I think I'm going to try to bet UCSD. So when the first region comes out and that matchup happens, it's like, well, everybody who knows college basketball is going to be picking this game. So it is fun. Like I said, I'm excited to watch the game because it's going to create excellent discourse either way. But it'll end up being that Michigan will win by like 1 or 2 because that's what they've done all year. And we'll look back and wonder what kind of voodoo magic Dusty May's been cooking with these last few years to get all these crazy close wins.
He didn't win in overtime against Northwestern last year, but I think that's the lone game on the big stage that Dusty May and
that
San
was
Diego
a miracle.
State
Didn't they have like a miracle comeback in that game too to get to overtime?
Right.
That's insane.
One last run for John L. Davis and Vlad Golden, actually, and the rest of that FAU team that made the Final Four last year. How much time do you think Dusty May spent with Mike Tomlin in the offseason?
Oh, Mike Tomlin should be giving like motivational speeches to every coach on how to win close games. It's amazing.
Unfortunately, Michigan is not an underdog, I guess. So for that
Doesn't
reason,
quite work. Yeah.
I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to make an appearance in Denver on Thursday night, but otherwise, you never know. Also, you brought up a great point, and I want to get serious for 1 second. Not that you said it in this vein, but I think it's important to note. You don't have to bet every game, and there are going to be a lot of people sitting in front of their TVs, sitting on their couch. Listen, my wife's going to be out of town. She does not want to deal with me for 4 straight days watching college hoops during March Madness. And
now, did she plan that trip around March Madness? Oh, okay.
That was premeditated.
That's smart. Yeah, that's good.
She wants to be nowhere near me. She'll talk to me the morning after, and I can have my vet sessions then. But she has experienced the ups and downs, the downswings of me during March Madness, and she has said enough is enough, and I can't blame her one bit.
Good for her.
Good for her. I agree.
She should go. Florida's nice this time of year, or wherever
she's going to Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico is lovely this time of year.
How can you blame her? I think her mom actually enjoys watching college basketball with me, but then again, she doesn't have to do it nearly as often as my wife does because, her mom visits a couple times a year. She gets to enjoy the sweats here and there. My wife has to come home from work and see the TV with, what you've avoided in recent months, the random Tuesday game, Maction or whatever conference, low major conference it is, A10, I'm sweating VCU, or Dayton would probably be the team, an undervalued dog, and they lose, don't cover, and I'm upset for at least an hour.
Lose a 10-0 run, to foul down 8 as a plus 8.5 dog with 8 seconds left.
Man.
Yeah, I think like I said, I still bet the sport this year, but the average volume for me was probably about half of what it usually would be in like a full bore season, and I made the same small profit on it, and I probably had about half as half as much stress. So I was like, this is maybe a better way to do it, where it's like, what, I'm gonna like slow burn to the grand finale. But I respect you guys for how much of a grind it is, especially now, November and December, with all of the work you have to do on the portal stuff. It's definitely exhausting if you're doing it that way.
Absolutely. One last thing. I mean, kind of twofold, but not really. Don't chase. This is the original point that I wanted to make. There are so many games, and Anthony and I just alluded to the volatility of the sport during the regular season. We'll get ready for the NCAA tournament. And that Creighton-Oregon game that we touched on earlier was a perfect example because Oregon was the right side for probably 46 minutes. And that game actually probably benefited bettors who took Oregon because it was one of the last games on the card and you couldn't chase later that night. But on a serious note, please, please, please don't chase, bet responsibly, all that good stuff. I'm not required to say that on any podcast, but I think it's important to say.
Agree 100%. Yeah, I mean, there's only 60 games or whatever, so it's easy to tilt and go crazy. But that's just the biggest thing you can do wrong. It's a better, and how you have a bad day and it becomes a disaster. And we want this to be entertaining as much as it is profitable, and so that's the best way to keep it that way.
Well said.